Hello, you're watching TVP World News. I'm Inash Rewiński. In his latest evening address, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy expressed hope that efforts to negotiate Ukraine's accession to the European Union will pick up steam this year. He noted that the EU presidency is held by countries that are friendly to Kiev.
Ukraine needs productive negotiations this year around our accession to the European Union and cover the security of Europe as a whole. This year, the EU presidency is held by Poland in the first half of the year and Denmark in the second half, our very responsible partners. From the Ukrainian side, we will ensure everything necessary to take the right steps.
Almost all of Kurachowe in Ukraine's Donetsk region is now occupied by Russian forces, according to reports coming from Deep State, a website monitoring Russian and Ukrainian military operations. This region has seen heavy fighting in the past few days, with Russian forces claiming to have captured the town last night. The BBC has verified several flag-raising videos showing Russian troops on the outskirts of Kurachowe, much of which has been destroyed. There are also reports of missile launches and guided bombs targeting Ukrainian forces in the region. However, Ukraine refuses to confirm the capture of Kurachowe by Russian troops. The seizure of the town would allow Russians to advance to attack Pokrovsk, a key logistics hub for the Ukrainian army. Some journalists are saying that Ukraine is still effectively holding on in the western outskirts of the town. Belarusian opposition leader Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya is visiting Poland for high-level talks as her country inches closer toward new presidential elections. The agenda for the talks also covers support for political prisoners, 1,300 of whom still remain in Belarusian jails. On Wednesday, Tsikhanouskaya will meet with MPs from the EU Affairs Committee and the representatives of Belarusian civil society and opposition circles. Talks with President Andrzej Duda and Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski are scheduled for Thursday. Her visit to Poland comes just weeks ahead of the Belarusian presidential elections, which will feature incumbent leader Alexander Lukashenko, who has been in power for 3 decades, and who is seeking a 7th term. The vote, however, is not expected to be either free or fair. The date for Poland's 2025 presidential elections will be announced on Wednesday. According to the law, 3 dates are possible: the 4th, the 11th or the 18th of May. But Speaker of the Polish Parliament, Szymon Hołownia, has already rejected one of these dates. Formally, the Polish elections will be ordered on Wednesday, on the 15th of January, a deadline that stems from a constitutional provision that says elections cannot be held within 90 days of the end of a state of emergency. The latest state of emergency was ordered in the wake of the September floods, meaning that the 90-day period expires mid-January. The elections are not expected to take place on the first possible date, the 4th of May. Karol Nawrocki, endorsed by the opposition Law and Justice Party, and Warsaw Mayor Rafał Trzaskowski, representing the ruling Civic Coalition, are expected to be the front-runners. Poland is targeted by Russian disinformation like no other country in the European Union, says Krzysztof Gawkowski, Warsaw's Minister of Digital Affairs. However, according to the official, the country knows how to deal with these threats and is already prepared to counter them.
Poland is now at war with Russia in cyberspace. It's ongoing. Russia has prepared a lot of nasty surprises for us this year. A special unit of the GRU, the Russian Army Intelligence, is to carry out disinformation and sabotage actions in Poland. One of such groups, if you remember, we have already cracked. We reported it together with Minister Siemoniak a couple of months ago. We know exactly what's going on out there, and we know very well that Poland is now the most attacked country in the European Union. It has the highest number of incidents. Russia wants to influence our elections. Russia will deliberately try to interfere in the Polish presidential elections, and we have to be vocal about it. Poland is ready for it. We now have the highest ever financing for cybersecurity. We have special task forces.
Polska jest na to przygotowana.
The Polish government has officially earmarked around 14 billion euros for the construction of the first nuclear power plant in the country. The state financing is subject to an in-depth review by the European Commission. The government's equity injection covers around 30% of the total estimated cost of 45 billion euros. The new plant is the first of two planned facilities that will generate between 6 and 9 gigawatts of electricity. Poland has already seen multiple attempts to add nuclear power to its energy mix, most recently back in 2012. If the European Commission approves the state financing scheme, construction work for the new nuclear facility could commence in 2028. It would take around 7 years to complete the project. The head of Poland's National Security Bureau, Jacek Siewiera, has begun his visit to the Baltic and Nordic states. This comes amid growing security threats in the Baltic Sea. Over 4 days, Siewiera will visit Finland, Sweden, Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. These are all NATO countries with access to the Baltic Sea, which has been an area of sabotage and hybrid attacks recently. Most recently, in late December, the S-Link 2 underwater power cable connecting Finland and Estonia was severed, and Finnish authorities have detained the Eagle S ship and its crew, suspected of causing the failure. Following sharp criticism from the Georgian opposition, the president of the Parliamentary Assembly of the OSCE has postponed her visit to the country indefinitely. The visit was planned for Wednesday. The Georgian opposition fears the trip of OSCE Parliamentary Assembly President Pia Kauma would legitimize the Georgian Dream government. The pro-Russian party retained power after October's elections, which are widely considered to have been fraudulent. Georgian Dream then proceeded to replace President Salome Zurabishvili with their hand-picked candidate under a new presidential election procedure. Writing on X, Kauma has stated she will postpone visiting Georgia until the organization's engagement would be, and I quote, most effective. Presidential candidates in Croatia participated in a debate on Tuesday ahead of a runoff scheduled for the 12th of January. The first round of the election was held on the 29th of December and saw the incumbent President Zoran Milanovic and Dragan Primorac heading to a second round of voting after no candidate won a majority. Although both candidates are formally independent, Milanovic was nominated by Croatia's biggest opposition party, the Social Democratic Party. He is a well-known critic of NATO and the European Union. Primorac, meanwhile, was nominated by the ruling Christian Democratic Union Party. The two candidates faced off in a heated debate where they discussed a range of issues, including Croatia's security and military affairs and Russia's war in Ukraine. Following the first round of the elections, the Croatian Prime Minister expressed criticism towards Milanovic, saying the candidate has no program and his win would risk Croatia getting dragged closer to Russia. The words of Donald Trump that the United States will not rule out taking control of Greenland by force is likely a provocation, former U.S. Ambassador to Poland Daniel Fried told TVP World. Fried added, however, that the words of the president-elect should not be taken lightly.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran. I mean, people have been talking about it for a long time. You have approximately 45,000 people there. People really don't even know if Denmark has any legal right to it. But if they do, they should give it up because we need it for national security.
He does that to obtain leverage, to put interlocutors on the defensive, and because he enjoys it. That said, making a claim against the territory of another country is appalling. The more so when it is a friendly country, a NATO member. The US and all of NATO has security concerns in the high north, and Greenland plays a role. But if Denmark has not done a good job with security, well, I haven't heard of that. I have heard no argument, and Trump did not even suggest that Denmark and Greenland have done a poor job cooperating with NATO and the United States on security against, let's say, Russian aggression. I don't know what is to be gained by alienating an ally, but Trump does enjoy throwing some mud into the game and watching people scramble.
Greenland and Panama Canal are needed for the economic security of the US, and forceful moves to acquire these territories cannot be ruled out. This is how President-elect Donald Trump answered the question on possible military action as his son, Donald Trump Jr., visited Greenland on Tuesday.
You're talking about Panama and Greenland. No, I can't assure you on either of those two, but I can say this. We need them for economic security. The Panama Canal was built for our military. I'm not going to commit to that now. It might be that you'll have to do something. Look, the Panama Canal is vital to our country. It's being operated by China. And we gave the Panama Canal to Panama. We didn't give it to China. And they've abused it. They've abused that gift. It should have never been made, by the way.
There isn't a snowball's chance in hell that Canada would become part of the United States. That's what Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau wrote on X after US President-elect Donald Trump suggested using America's economic power to incentivize Canada to become the 51st state. Trump floated the idea to use economic pressure to make Canada a part of the US during a press conference in which he also reiterated his desire to take possession of Greenland and the Panama Canal. The incoming president has threatened to impose a 25% tariff on imports from Canada, which sends 75% of all goods and services exports to its southern neighbor. Earlier on Tuesday, Canada's Foreign Minister Melanie Joly said Trump's comments, quote, show a complete lack of understanding of what makes Canada a strong country. Premier of Canada's Ontario province, Doug Ford, reiterated there is no chance for Canada to become the 51st US state. In turn, the official presented up a counteroffer specifically designed with Donald Trump in mind, suggesting Canada take over Alaska.
You know something, to the president, I'll make him a counteroffer. How about if we buy Alaska and we'll throw in Minnesota and Minneapolis at the same time? So, you know, it's not realistic. I know he likes making these comments and he likes joking around. I take that seriously. He may be joking, but under my watch, that will never, ever happen.
The United States Treasury has sanctioned Hungarian government official Antal Rogan under the Global Magnitsky Act for his alleged role in usurping Hungary's public companies. It is the first time the US has sanctioned someone from Prime Minister Viktor Orban's inner circle. According to a press statement by the United States Treasury, Rogan used his position as Prime Minister Orban's chief of staff and overseer of the security services to enrich himself and others within the ruling Fidesz party. Public sector corruption, the statement adds, has been worsening for over a decade. Despite his high position, Rogan generally operates in the background and rarely appears in public. The country's opposition accused him of turning the Hungarian media into a propaganda machine. Former President Jimmy Carter's casket was transferred to Washington, D.C., where it will lie in the Capitol Rotunda until Thursday. During the ceremony in the American Capitol, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris gave a speech outlining the milestones reached by the country under the Carter administration.
He was the first president of the United States to have a comprehensive energy policy, including providing some of the first federal support for clean energy. He also passed over a dozen major pieces of legislation regarding environmental protection, and more than doubled the size of America's national parks, including protecting our beloved redwoods in my home state of California. He was a president who, between the years of 1977 and 1981, appointed more Black Americans to the federal bench than all of his predecessors combined.
California is grappling with a devastating wildfire that is spreading in the Los Angeles area. Local officials report that nearly 12 square kilometers of land in the Pacific Palisades neighborhood in the north of Los Angeles have been burned down. They have also issued a warning to residents, some 30,000 of whom have evacuated the nearby areas. Firefighters are battling the blaze, but powerful winds are helping the fire spread at a rapid pace. And with this, we conclude this news bulletin. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news and updates.